Mom, Dad, I'm not throwing shade, but the whole New Year's resolution thing, kind of slipping, no offense. Anyway, my best friend Jenny's dad, crushing it. He uses Blue Apron. He says he ordered 1-pan assemble and bake meals and these things called meal kits. They're all super easy to make. He keeps yelling, protein and fiber, baby. Also, the food, we tried it. So good. So maybe check it out or whatever. Blue Apron. Get $50 off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code STIR50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Hey, this is Adam Grant, host of TED's podcast, Rethinking with Adam Grant. Let me share with you why smart finance leaders turn to Bill. They know that clarity isn't just helpful, it's strategic. As the intelligent finance platform, Bill uses AI to automate the busy work for nearly 500,000 businesses so they can focus on intentional growth. Eliminate the friction and start scaling with the proven choice. Visit Bill.com/proven to talk with an expert about automating your business finances and get a $250 gift card as a thank you. That's Bill.com/proven. Terms and conditions apply. See offer page for details.
Oh, no. This is a logbook entry from the 10th of July, 1993. Donald from Sky phoned for a chat. Apparently he spoke to a night shift volunteer last Saturday and says hello and thanks to whoever that was. He is thinking of leaving the island and moving to a town or city on the mainland to explore his gay self, so he has lots of questions to ask. He is 22 and fairly cheers up a night shift with his wry sense of humour. He will probably be a regular and drunk and makes extensive use of swear words.
You're listening to The Logbooks, untold stories from Britain's LGBTQ+ history.
I'm Tash Walker.
And I'm Adam Zmith.
Since we finished making the Logbooks podcast in 2022, we've been writing a book published by Faber. It's called The Logbooks, and Adam's turned 40.
You too.
I don't look it though.
The book goes deeper into Switchboard's archive and other archives, and includes more stories from the 70s, 80s, 90s and noughties. 4 decades.
Listening to queer people's essential stories is always central to our work.
So in this season of the podcast, we want to share some of the interviews we conducted as research for our book.
Now you too can listen to all the amazing, powerfully queer storytellers we've listened to in their own words, with their own voices.
Tash, this episode we've got Clare Truscott coming back.
Yes, the good old Northern Dyke.
Yes, who you interviewed, I believe, in September 2023 as part of the research for the book.
Yeah, and you'll have heard Clare in the Logbooks podcast. She told us all of these sexy stories about going to different fetish nights in London.
Yeah.
But actually, I wanted to interview her for the book because she was involved in a campaign around not going into the care closet, so homophobia in nursing homes specifically. And Ted Brown is part of that campaign with Clare, and we cover that a lot more in the book.
Yeah.
And Ted's story in particular.
So some things that we should listen out for when we are listening back to the interview is the way that Clare uses the phrase Clause 28. When we normally use Section 28, they're both synonymous ways of describing that law. And also there is this interesting discussion that you had with Clare, which I imagine was maybe even a little bit tense, around gender identity and language. Do you want to share something about that before we listen?
Yeah, totally. So Clare was talking about, I asked Clare the differences between generations and conversations that she has, and she talked about being called a TERF because she found it difficult to get pronouns right and was a different generation, and things were different when she was growing up and all of those sorts of things. And so language is a really fascinating thing that I am particularly intrigued by, and how it evolves and all of those sorts of things. And in the context of that, I shared with Clare that I'm not non-binary, but by that, I didn't mean that I was a cis woman. I meant that I was gender fluid, and the differentiation between non-binary and gender fluid, it feels important to me. So it's another sort of complexity or nuance within the wider conversation.
Right, so that's also good for us to think about as we listen, which is that there is discussion in this interview of transphobia and of gender identities and language and pronouns as well.
Hello, I'm Clare Truscott.
And what's your... I know we spoke before a while ago now, wasn't it, for the Logbooks podcast?
Yeah, so it was when we were still in lockdown.
Yeah, it was.
And you came to my house because I was scared to go out.
Yeah, how are you feeling now?
I'm fine. I could hug you now.
Yeah,
I didn't want to go within 2 meters of you before, and we were sitting at opposite ends of a table with the door open. I was very paranoid, but I've had lots of therapy. Okay. Literally had lots of therapy. Good. And it's worked.
Good. Yeah, you can see.
I am out. I am out and about. I am hugging people. I've even been to a nightclub. I've been having a great time. So I'm trying to catch up from all those things I didn't do for the last 3 years. So over the last 3 years, I was very busy kind of organising and connecting with people online and what have you. And it's like, now I'm meeting them in person. It's so much more fun.
So when I interviewed you, we spoke about lots of different things. Obviously, your involvement in Switchboard, doing lots of design work for them, being aware of Switchboard. And then we were also talking about your memories of that time, you know, the 80s specifically. I think we were looking at the HIV and AIDS crisis. We also had some fantastic conversations around your memories.
You wanted to find out all about the smutty things. You wanted to find out all about the fetish clubs.
That's right. Yeah,
which was great fun.
Yeah. How did you?
Can't remember what I told you, but I deny it all.
We had to cut it all. It was too saucy.
There's no photographic evidence. Hurrah!
So I wanted to know, like, how that felt for you, delving back into those memories and having those conversations with me.
I was quite surprised you were so interested in the smut, but that was quite fun. I was quite pleased by that. I'm quite glad to talk about those times because I think a lot has been forgotten about how people had to come together, about how people came together, about what we were facing, and you know things like Clause 28. Okay, it's. 40 years in the past? Well, no, it's not quite 40 years, is it? It's however long, 1988. But things like that could happen again. They've happened in Hungary. They're happening in America, you know? And it's like, well, if that happens again here, you need to be fully au fait with how it happened before and be ready, you know, how to organise, what to do.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like, for me and Adam, who I did the podcast with, being children of Section 28, if you like we only realised that. We knew what Section 28 was, but we didn't realise that both of our entire education was from 88 to 2003. So it was quite shocking for us to realise in the process of doing the podcast, speaking to you and all the other people that we interviewed, looking through the logbooks, that so much of it we didn't know either, right? And we directly lived under that. We were like...
I mean, that was the point. They didn't want... us promoting homosexuality. They didn't, and they read that to mean, or lots of schools read that to mean, mentioning homosexuality, which with an AIDS crisis going on was criminal. Okay, they made an exception for the health advice, but it was always very tricky. And so whereas in 1988 I knew people who were going into schools, giving talks, and there was that connection between younger gay people and older gay people. Section 28 made that illegal. It stopped it. They could no longer run those youth groups. They could no longer do that stuff. So we stopped being able to directly transmit that information to people younger than ourselves.
That's such an interesting point that you bring up there, this connection between the younger generation and the older generations. I'm really interested in that as well, because it feels like it's so important. If you think about so many of us are born into families that don't identify as LGBTQ+. So we're brought up by people who can't help us navigate the world. How important do you think that intergenerational conversation is?
Very. I did an intergenerational event a few years ago, just before lockdown, and we invited lots of young people from the Mosaic LGBT youth group to meet with the Brixton Umbrella Circle. So we had people as young as, I think, was the youngest 16 or 17, and the oldest was mid-70s. So, you know, we had a fair... array of ages, including people in between who we'd invited randomly. And the carers, the youth workers were like in their 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s. So we had a range of all the generations. And that was such an interesting conversation. I learned so much from the younger people. I think younger people forget that older people, we don't know all about the latest ideas around transgender and non-binary, because we didn't grow up with that. Nobody's taught us. A lot of that stuff is transmitted on the internet. Lots of us don't do social media. We don't know about it. So to have a nice young trans person telling me firsthand of their experience of negotiating trans issues with their family was really interesting. So yeah, I'm keen. Learning works both ways.
Yeah, totally. That's such an important point as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you think about sort of like the history of queer communities, so many of the conversations were through spoken stories as well, because anything written down could be held against you. It was illegal. So you have this wonderful storytelling tradition, I think, within our queer communities.
Certainly when I came out, every gay venue, and there were a lot more gay venues, because where else could you be gay apart from in a gay venue? You could not hold hands with your girlfriend in a straight pub. It was difficult enough to sit with your girlfriend in a straight pub. So there was more of that intergenerational mix. You would meet older and younger people in bars, in community spaces, in LGBT spaces. So there was that. I think the other thing that's really important to say, which was one of the things that came out when we were preparing this intergenerational Bricks and Umbrella Circle event, we called it the pretended family gathering.
Nice nod.
Because when we styled it as like Sunday afternoon tea with your gay gran. So I made fairy cakes, we had tea, and we did sit down and we chatted. And, some of us were old enough to be grandmothers and grandfathers, only we don't have children. I think only one of our group actually has children. Or certainly one of our group at that time, who was actually in that circle at that time, had children or grandchildren. And of course, these young people don't have older LGBT people in their families. Now, if you're from another minority family, if you're from an ethnic minority or religious minority or whatever, you will learn about how people like you are othered and how people like you deal with persecution and bigotry and, you would learn it from your family. You don't learn how to cope with transphobia, biphobia, homophobia from your family. Who'd you learn it from? And I thought that homophobia and the hatred that's kind of meted out to all of us then and now, ever since, perpetually, how are you going to learn about how to deal with that? And I thought it would be useful to share that conversation. So many of my generation dealt with it by hiding. Quite a lot of my generation dealt with it by protesting.
Yeah.
How generations deal with it now is differently because you've got some legal protections. We didn't have any legal protections.
And visibility.
Yeah, we were invisible. We had no legal protections. You could be sacked. You could be, you wouldn't go to the police because they were as likely to beat you up as the bigot. So, yeah.
You learn fighting on the streets or hiding.
Yeah, but there's not enough intergenerational events to pass on this knowledge.
Yeah.
So I'm always keen to attend them because, well, apart from anything else, I quite enjoy them.
Yeah.
I don't have younger people in my life. We did a workshop about ageing in the Bricks and Umbrella Circle, and one of the things we identified, we were sort of like trying to come up with a list of things that help you cope with ageing, and one of them was like keeping good contacts with younger generations. And everybody who was in the room went, shit, I don't know any younger people.
Yeah.
It's like none of us had children. Yeah. We don't have younger people in our daily lives. Yeah. How this often manifests for me is all my straight peers, they've got the latest iPhones and gadgets. It's like, oh yeah, my grandson set it up for me. My son bought it for me. Oh, my granddaughter's teaching me how to use it. I don't know how to use any of this fucking stuff. I've got nobody in my life to show me.
I'll always show you, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's so
I might be calling you to, come and connect my telly.
I think it's so important everything that you're saying is so important. I think as well, and sort of like leaning out of that because of growing up without queer people in your family or queer people in your family not being visible because of them
being
hidden. And then also I think that this makes us start to think differently whether we're hiding or fighting about what a family means and the definition of family and what children mean or siblings, a word that is often used to talk about other members of our community. What are your thoughts on those words and what they mean to you?
Well, we often used to talk about family was like Polari for queer people. You know, are they family?
One of ours.
One of ours, yeah. So yeah, it was the idea that we were family because so many have been rejected or had escaped or hidden from their biological families. I think now they call them chosen families.
Yeah.
I think in the 80s it was more desperation families. We were thrown together, so yeah, we had to bond. And for the law to actually state that was pretended was damning.
Hey, this is Adam Grant, host of TED's podcast, Rethinking with Adam Grant. Have you heard of Bill? It's the intelligent finance platform that uses AI to help you avoid costly errors and optimize cash flow. In fact, Bill reports that over 90 of the top 100 U.S. accounting firms trust them to manage, move, and maximize money, proven by over $1 trillion in secure transactions. Eliminate the friction and start scaling with the proven choice. Visit Bill.com/proven to talk with an expert about automating your business finances and get a $250 gift card as a thank you. That's Bill.com/proven. Terms and conditions apply. See offer page for details.
Hi, it's Matt here from P1 with Matt and Tommy, and this episode is sponsored by eBay. Ever tried to buy a car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger, a paper title, and some blind trust? With Secure Purchase on eBay, you don't have to. Secure Purchase means sellers and titles are verified. Financing covered. Registration handled. Delivery, get your ride, plates, and paperwork shipped to you, so you can skip the DMV and sketchy meetups. Buy your next car on eBay. eBay. Things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Caramel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.
Explore a new spring collection of pieces that take you to the places you dream about. A suitcase filled with heritage-inspired suede jackets, relaxed linen, and dresses for every adventure. Discover more at bananarepublic.com.
Adam and Tash here.
We wanted to tell you about our book.
It's called The Logbooks, Voices of Queer Britain and the Helpline That Listened.
And it's filled with more stories from Switchboard, our podcast contributors, other archives, and even the pair of us.
The Logbooks is published by Faber Books, and you can order it now at linktree.com/thelogbooks. There's real power in, I think, being able to claim individuals as part of your chosen family, to use a word that is more commonly used now, whether that's your niece, your nibbling, like someone else.
What's that word?
So nibbling is like a new word for like...
Oh, I like that.
It's like...
Sounds like nibble.
Yeah, so it's like gender neutral niece-nephew.
Oh.
So that's there you go.
See,
another word.
See, all this sort of gender neutral language is something we're not familiar with.
Yeah.
And I've had younger people think that I'm somehow bigoted because I'm not using the right language. I've never heard this right language.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to absorb this right language
Yeah.
if I'm not mixing with younger people?
Totally. And I think that older people get stereotyped a lot because of that.
I think I've been stereotyped as a TERF and I really resent that.
Yeah.
It's like, who fought for your fucking rights? You know, you've got all kinds of legal rights now because of the stuff that my generation and the generations who went before did. That doesn't mean I'm a bigot.
No.
I just don't know the latest theories, the latest word, the latest language. That does not make me a bigot.
Yeah. But you're not a TERF either.
Well, I don't think so.
No, you're not. Yeah, so it's this like how choosing the right we have as like queer people to choose who belongs as our loved one, who belongs in our families, right? And what that really means and represents. When you were younger, did you have older members of the queer community that you were close to or that you learned from? Because of course, my generation is very different to your generation, because when you were growing up at a time where it was relatively newly, partially decriminalised, right? So where I was growing up, I mean, I was born in 85, and it's just...
And I was coming out in 82.
Right. So like, that's quite a big difference.
Yeah. And
so I'm just thinking like the people who...
Yeah, well, it was all multi-generational in any gay space. They weren't...
had the gay spaces.
Yeah. And although, okay, some gay spaces would be just full of old people or just full of young people or just full of gay men disco bunnies or just full of lesbians, or, there was a lot of... in London, there were so many places that a lot of places were very specialised. And that sometimes did mean generationally. But, as soon as you go to something in the suburbs, there'd be teenagers there, there'd be 80-year-olds there, So there were just generations around.
And do you think because less people were out, maybe, more people were hiding, that they came together more closely? And I suppose you had to, like you were saying, because wider society went...
You had to, because you couldn't, if you wanted to sit with your partner and not be beaten up, abused, shouted at, if you just quietly wanted to have a drink, you had to go to a gay venue. And that was the case until... I think it's early to mid-90s.
I've definitely experienced it since then.
Ah, right, okay.
I grew up in Plymouth, though. So,
right. I think outside of London, it's different than in London. And certainly when I came out, which was it was up north in Preston, the one club that operated on a Saturday, or was it a Friday night? Can't remember, Saturday night or Friday night. And it was a tiny little club, and there'd be everybody in there, from teenagers, old leather queens, transvestites, as they used to be called then. Not that I'm bigoted. That's what they would have called themselves back then. There was all sorts of everybody there, including, it's like, oh God, these young students. That was one. Yeah, I was the young student who they all thought, I don't know what this. Because there was a lot of things from the older women about kind of butch femme roles. Yeah. And I was wearing like 1950s frocks and hats, so they sort of thought I was femme. It's like, it's just a frock.
Yeah. I suppose like what you're touching on language as well. Yeah. Their way of expressing themselves was more binary, right? Like, and the
word femme has changed meaning several times. I gather from older gay men in London that radical femmes were effeminate men, or men who did radical drag.
Okay.
So dressing up in female attire for political purposes. So a different concept than transvestitism, which was the idea that somebody was dressing as a woman, and a different idea than trans now.
Yeah, always evolving, right?
Yeah,
and that's
the language and the ideas around it. Yeah. It's not just the language; it's the concepts around it. Yeah, changes all the time,
and it changes through conversations.
Yeah, and I haven't got my head around non-binary yet, because the very name recognises the binary. And having been brought up in the binary, which, whether I liked it or not, I was going to receive a lesser education. I was going to be bought different toys, different clothes, be offered different opportunities. I would be barred from lots of different professions. I would be barred from certain educational establishments. I didn't have a choice about it. So that was the binary I was brought up in. So yeah, I haven't really got my head around non-binary.
I need
to meet some more young people who can tell me more about it.
I think it's just, I don't think they would see themselves as having a choice either. Like, I know for me, certainly, like, I wake up every day and sometimes I feel certain ways and sometimes I feel other ways. How I'm perceived externally is a whole different thing. But like, I'm not non-binary. I just think it's not a choice. I think we just, like you said, we're just understanding how to talk about ourselves more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that as somebody born female with no choice about it, I was treated as a lesser human being for most of my life.
Yeah, totally.
And legally treated as a lesser human being.
Yeah.
You know, the Sex Equality Act didn't come in until 1971.
What
pay.
When were you born?
I was born in 61.
Mm-hmm. My mum was 1960.
Yeah.
And there's still so much to fight around that as well.
Yeah, and we still don't have equal pay now.
No, but there's space to allow other people to express themselves within that, though, I think.
Oh, God, yeah. Express yourself anyway.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And I think
you remember the 80s was your gender-bending decade when, you know, straight men were dressing up in frocks and a bit of diamante and a lot of makeup. Everybody had a lot of makeup and a lot of hair gel. Large amounts of crimping and hairspray going on. I mean, you've just got to think, Boy George.
Yeah, so the New Romantics.
Yeah. And also the kind of very androgynous look of...
Patti Smith, David Bowie.
Yeah. Oh, what's her name? Oh, it'll come to me in a second. Singer. Annie Lennox.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole load of women like that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of androgynous women singers. And there was a lot of really effeminate male singers.
Yeah, totally.
And there was a lot of that. Is it a boy? Is it a girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, loads.
And I guess ultimately, like everyone has been victim to the structures that were imposed because of capitalism and the patriarchy, and that's what we're fighting against. So it's like a unified fight. And it's just recognising people that are ultimately fighting for the same things. How is your, like, just going back to the idea of like family, maybe biological family, how is your, like, I suppose you've got your biological family versus the family you surround yourselves with and you choose to call family. Was that a conscious decision? What is your relationship like with your biological family? Do you still have one? Don't feel I have to answer any of these questions, by the way. If you don't
my mother died too young for me to come out to her.
Okay.
She died in her 50s and I was only 26, 27. I was just settling into my first ever girlfriend relationship. And I didn't dare come out to her because everybody I knew who'd come out to their parents had been disowned.
So interesting.
I thought that I would be ostracised by them if I did. So I didn't really officially come out to my dad until a few years after my mother died. And he said, I know that. I said, yeah, but I needed to say it. I needed to say the word lesbian. I needed to say, this woman is my lover. He said, oh yeah, I know that. And your mother knew that. And she didn't mind. I was like, really? My mother minded everything. My mother was a very starchy Catholic woman. I thought she minded all kinds of sex. She seemed to have a very Catholic ascetic when it came to sexuality. And my dad said, she was a bit that way inclined before we got married. So obviously my mother, the woman I knew, was not the woman that my dad fell in love with.
Wow.
Isn't that's
amazing.
Shocking.
And again, it's going back to what we were talking about, isn't it? The things that
she was very disapproving of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't,
So interesting.
I couldn't do anything right. I didn't dress feminine enough, despite being called femme by all these butch dykes. I wasn't feminine enough for my mother. She was always saying things like, is that a man's jacket you're wearing? Like, no, it's not a man's jacket, it's mine.
Do you think because you were expressing yourself in a way she couldn't, maybe?
Presumably, she'd become like the stereotypical 1950s housewife.
Wow, that's just, amazing.
That's how compulsory it was for her generation. She would have had no other choice. I mean, I always said that I was brought up with, there were three choices when it came to sexuality. You married a good Catholic man, proper Catholic marriage in a church, nothing else really counted. You had a career and became a dried-up old spinster. That was obviously a not so attractive choice. Or you could become a nun. Yeah.
And that's why you're a nun, isn't it, Claire?
She called me Claire after a nun.
Oh, did she?
She was obviously hoping I might go down that route.
Wow.
It didn't work, did it?
Gosh, that's amazing. Thinking about, like, the way that you just described your mum then as like a classical 1950s housewife. Have you ever thought about, you know, looking back on your life, having these kinds of chats and talking about history that you lived through that I'm so interested in, right? Like have you ever thought about what legacy means to you?
Oh, God, I don't know. If legacy means anything, it means changing the world, doesn't it? And at the moment, the campaign I'm working on is like not going in the care closet. And we've managed to get it debated in the Westminster Hall.
Do you want to tell me a bit about the campaign?
Well, I won't tell you all about Ted and Noel because you presumably got their story directly from Ted. But I'm supporting Ted, and I've managed through my work locally to get it into the council chamber in Lambeth, who were the authority that he had to take to court because of everything that happened, the abuse that happened to Noel. So, you know, I've managed to introduce him to councillors and get him in the council chamber. And I've managed, because of that, I'm now on all these bloody council committees. I'm a community representative. And I'm thinking, I never wanted to work for the council. Why am I in a council meeting? But if I can be there to shout up for older queer people, I will do. And council people, they're very good at talking about provision and care and safeguarding issues. But a gay man got beaten up in a care home that they were paying for. And they had no policies in place to stop that happening or to move the man immediately once they found out. It took Ted 9 months to get him out of that care home where he was being abused. So if my legacy is anything, I hope it will be providing LGBT welcoming homes, at least in my borough, and hopefully everywhere. Because if that is happening in the most LGBT populous borough in London, where we have self-professed over 8.5% of the population is LGBT, they count T differently in the last census. I don't really understand how the statistics work. And a further 9.5% wouldn't say. So we're talking, at least 10% of Lambeth's population, adult population, is LGBT. I don't know what percentage of T. But this is a large chunk of their electorate, the people who vote for them. So I think this is why they're sort of taking notice. And they love to say, oh, yes, we support LGBT people. But it's like, yeah, what are you doing? How are you changing how this works? What policies have you got in place? What training have you got in place? How is it actually going to change? You know, words are not enough. We want to see change. We want to see LGBT welcoming homes. And we are on course. We've gone through a process with them, and we're on course, hopefully, fingers crossed, for the first LGBT welcoming care homes to open in Lambeth next year.
Wow, that's amazing.
But I won't believe it until it happens. Because it's all very well to say, oh, this is what we want to do. Yeah, but what actually happens?
And who's given you that promise? The council?
Head of the council, people, they've got a cabinet system in Lambeth. So there's 2 cabinet members share the role of responsibility for adult social care. They've promised.
Last I heard, Claire is still rightly campaigning on that issue.
Good, because it's an important one.
It is,
You've got to get it right. Yeah.
As our intergenerational conversations, right? So language can only evolve when you talk to people and you go on that journey together, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, like listening back to the conversation between you and Claire, like it is tense maybe in that moment. But I just do think it's important that you actually listened to each other. And you did a really good job in that interview of really listening to her and what she was saying and not sort of cancelling her just for like saying, oh, I sometimes can't get the pronouns right, you know?
Yeah,
like,
okay,
just
thanks.
listening to each other. Thanks for listening to this episode. And also maybe check out Faber Members, which is Faber Books' free to join programme of events and online content. The Logbooks is an Aunt Nell production.
It is hosted and produced by Tash Walker and Adam Zmith.
The voice of The Logbooks is Serena James.
The assistant producer is Marnie Woodmeade.
Engineered by David Pye.
Music by Tom Foskett-Barnes.
Original artwork by Natalie Doto.
Thanks to Steph Dickers and team at the Bishopsgate Institute.
Our publisher, Faber Books.
The Dreamboats at Acast.
The staff and volunteers at Switchboard, and all the contributors who shared their stories.
Switchboard continues to take phone calls from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. If you're affected by any of the issues in this podcast or need to discuss anything to do with your gender identity or sexuality, you can call Switchboard on 0800 0119 100. Email hello@switchboard.lgbt or instant message via switchboard.lgbt, where you can also donate money or time to help.
Hey, this is Adam Grant, host of TED's podcast, Rethinking with Adam Grant. Let me share with you why smart finance leaders turn to Bill. They know that clarity isn't just helpful, it's strategic. As the intelligent finance platform, Bill uses AI to automate the busy work for nearly 500,000 businesses so they can focus on intentional growth. Eliminate the friction and start scaling with the proven choice. Visit Bill.com/proven to talk with an expert about automating your business finances and get a $250 gift card as a thank you. That's Bill.com/proven. Terms and conditions apply. See offer page for details.
Explore a new spring collection of pieces that take you to the places you dream about. A suitcase filled with heritage-inspired suede jackets, relaxed linen, and dresses for every adventure. Discover more at bananarepublic.com.